The great stone hall echoed with the sound of claws on metal as the Blood Council gathered. Daeho stood in the center of the circle, his head held high despite the shame burning in his chest. Around him, 12 of the most powerful Varkai in the galaxy sat on their bone thrones, their yellow eyes fixed on him like hungry predators. The Varkai were giants among the stars. Each warrior stood 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in thick fur that ranged from silver to black. Their faces were like wolves, but with intelligence that burned cold and calculating. For 1,000 years, they had ruled through strength and blood. Pack loyalty was everything, family was everything, and Daeho had broken that sacred law. "You stand accused of the greatest crime our people know?" growled Alpha Prime Korthvon from his throne of carved bone. His voice was like grinding stone. "You refused to kill enemy prisoners. You showed mercy to humans." Daeho felt his friends Boram and Junsik shift nervously behind him. They had grown up together, trained together, fought together. Now they watched as their pack brother faced judgment for something they still didn't understand. The humans were defenseless, Daeho said quietly. They had no weapons. They could not fight back. A rumble of anger went through the council. Several Varkai bared their fangs. Alpha Prime Korthvon leaned forward, his massive hands gripping his throne. "That is exactly when we kill them, young fool. When the enemy is weak, we finish them. This is the way of the hunt. This is the way of the Varkai." Daeho thought back to that day on Colony 7. The human settlement had fallen after 3 days of fighting. The survivors had been gathered in the town square, mostly civilians, some wounded soldiers. His pack leader had given the order, "No prisoners." But when Daeho had looked into their eyes, he had seen something that confused him. Fear, yes, but also a strange kind of courage. One human in particular had caught his attention. A soldier with dark hair and calm eyes who stood in front of the others, shielding them with his own body, even though he was hurt and bleeding. "State your name, human," Daeho had demanded. "Captain Lee Taemin, Human Defense Corps," the man had answered without hesitation. "You will die today," Daeho had told him, raising his plasma rifle. "I know," Taemin had replied, "but I will die, standing between you and them." Something in those words had stopped Daeho cold. In Varkai culture, the strong dominated the weak. The idea of dying to protect those weaker than yourself was alien, almost incomprehensible. Yet this human spoke of it like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Why?" Daeho had asked. "They cannot help you. You gain nothing by protecting them." Taemin had smiled then, even with death staring him in the face. "That's exactly why I have to do it." Now, standing before the Blood Council, Daeho tried to explain what he had felt in that moment. The human captain, he was not afraid to die, but he was not trying to show dominance either. He was trying to protect others who could not protect themselves. "Weakness," spat Counselor Velthak. "Human weakness that has infected your mind." "No," Daeho said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "It was strength. A different kind of strength than ours, but strength all the same." Boram, the only female in their pack of 3, stepped forward. Her silver fur bristled with tension. "Honored Alphas, Daeho has always been loyal to the pack. This one moment of confusion should not define him." Junsik nodded agreement. He was smaller than most Varkai, but his mind was sharp. "Perhaps we should study these humans more before we judge their behavior as weakness." Alpha Prime Korthvan's laugh was like breaking glass. Study them? We have studied them, young ones. For 50 years we have fought them across the galaxy. They are soft. They are weak. They care more about protecting the helpless than winning battles. This is why they lose. But they don't always lose, Junsik said quietly. The reports from the outer systems, silence! The Alpha Prime's roar shook dust from the ancient stones. You forget your place, cub. The trial continued for another hour. Witness after witness testified about Daeho's crime. His pack leader described how Daeho had lowered his weapon and refused direct orders. Other warriors spoke of the shame he had brought on his bloodline. Finally, Alpha Prime Korthvan stood. The hall fell silent. Daeho of the Red Claw Pack, you have been found guilty of the crime of mercy. You have shown weakness in the face of the enemy. You have put alien lives above the honor of your pack. For these crimes, you are cast out. The ritual of casting out was ancient and terrible. 4 warriors stepped forward with heated brands. They held Daeho down, while they burned away his clan markings, the sacred scars that showed his bloodline and rank. The pain was nothing compared to the shame. You are fangless now, the Alpha Prime declared. No pack will claim you. No warrior will fight beside you. You are dead to us. As they dragged him toward the exile gate, Daeho looked back at his friends. Boram had tears in her eyes, something he had never seen before. Junsik looked lost and confused. They had been together since they were cubs. Now that bond was broken forever. The exile gate opened onto the wasteland beyond the city. It was a place of rocks and sand where nothing grew. Cast-out Varkai went there to die alone, as was proper for those who had lost their honor. But as Daeho stumbled into the harsh sunlight, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned to see Boram and Junsik walking through the gate. "What are you doing?" he asked in shock. "We don't understand what happened back there," Boram said. "But we understand that you are our pack brother. If you are exiled, then we choose exile too." Junsik nodded. "Maybe the humans have something to teach us after all. I want to find out what." Behind them, the exile gate slammed shut with a sound like thunder. The 3 young Varkai stood alone, in the wasteland, cut off from everything they had ever known. Far above them, the sky suddenly lit up with the fire of ship engines. A human fleet had broken through the Varkai blockade around the planet. In the distance, explosions bloomed like deadly flowers as the battle began. Daeho watched the ship streak overhead and thought of Captain Taemin. Was he up there somewhere, still protecting those who could not protect themselves? And if so, what did that really mean? The 3 exiles began walking into the wasteland, leaving their old lives behind. They did not know where they were going, or what they would find. But for the first time in their lives, they were walking toward something they chose for themselves, rather than something chosen for them by blood and tradition. The war was just beginning. 3 months had passed since the battle over Colony 7. Captain Lee Taemin now wore the silver bars of a commander on his uniform. The promotion had come with a new ship and a mission that many thought was impossible. Find a way to make peace with the Varkai. The Soul's Pride was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was fast and well armed. More importantly, it was crewed by people who trusted Taemin's judgment, even when his orders seemed crazy. "Sir, are you sure about this?" asked Lieutenant Nam Soo-jin, as she looked at the data on her screen. Sujin had been with Taimin since his days as a junior officer. She was smart, brave, and never afraid to speak her mind. Intelligence says there are 3 Varkai on that moon. They could be scouts for a larger force. Taimin studied the sensor readings. The moon was dead. No atmosphere, no life, just rock and ice. But their long-range scanners had picked up energy signatures that could only be Varkai technology. 3 signatures moving together. If they were scouts, they would have called for backup by now, Taimin said. I think these might be the ones we're looking for. For weeks, human intelligence had been tracking reports of Varkai who had been cast out from their packs, exiles. According to the reports, these cast-outs were left to die alone in the wasteland. But some had survived. Some had even started working together, forming new groups outside the traditional pack structure. It was a long shot, but Taimin believed these exiles might be willing to talk, maybe even willing to help. Set course for the moon, he ordered, and prepare a shuttle. I'm going down to meet them. The shuttle bay was busy as Taimin suited up for the meeting. The dead moon had no air, so they would need environmental suits. He checked his weapon, a standard plasma pistol. He hoped he wouldn't need it, but he wasn't stupid. Commander, I really think you should take a larger team, Sujin said as she helped him with his helmet seals. 3 Varkai, even cast-outs, could tear you apart. Maybe, Taimin agreed. But if I bring too many people, they'll think it's an attack. This has to be person to person, or person to Varkai, I guess. The shuttle trip to the moon's surface was quiet. Taimin's pilot, Ensign Park Min-ho, was young but steady. He set them down in a crater about a kilometer from where the Varkai signatures had been detected. They didn't have to wait long. 3 figures appeared on the crater rim, moving with the fluid grace that marked their species. Even at a distance, Taimin could see they were young, not much more than cubs by Varkai standards. The largest of the 3 jumped down into the crater first. It was a male with dark fur and scars where clan markings should have been. Behind him came a female with silver fur and a smaller male who moved more carefully than the others. I know you, the dark-furred male said in accented but clear human speech. You are the one who should have died on Colony 7. Taimin stepped forward, keeping his hands visible and away from his weapon. I'm Commander Lee Taimin. You're Dae-ho, aren't you? The Varkai's eyes widened slightly. You remember my name. Hard to forget someone who saved your life, Taimin replied, even if you didn't mean to. The female Bo-Ram circled to Taimin's left. Her movements were predatory, testing. Why are you here, human? Did you come to finish what your people started? I came to talk, Taimin said simply. To offer you a choice. Junsik, the smaller male, tilted his head curiously. What kind of choice? The choice to matter again, Taimin said. Your people cast you out for showing mercy. My people could use warriors who understand what mercy means. Bo-Ram laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want us to betray our own species? To fight against our own blood? I want you to fight for something better than blood, Taimin replied. Look at yourselves. You were exiled for refusing to kill prisoners, for questioning orders, for thinking for yourselves. Does that sound like betrayal to you, or does it sound like evolution? Dae-ho studied Taimin for a long moment. What do you know of Varkai honor, human? I know that honor means different things to different people, Taimin said. To your blood council, honor means following orders without question. To me, honor means protecting those who can't protect themselves. Like you did in the town square, Junsik said quietly. Like you did when you refused to execute prisoners, Taemin replied, looking at Daeho. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of ship engines overhead. Taemin looked up to see Varkai attack craft dropping out of hyperspace. 6 sleek fighters, their hulls marked with the symbols of the Blood Fleet. They found us, Boram snarled. Taemin activated his comm unit. Pride, this is the commander. We have company, Sujin's voice crackled back. We see them, sir. 6 fighters coming in fast. Orders? The Varkai fighters opened fire on the shuttle first, turning it into scrap metal with their first pass. Taemin and the others dove for cover behind a rock, formation as plasma bolts rained down around them. They're not here for prisoners, Daeho observed grimly. No, Taemin agreed. They're here for you 3, and they'll go through me to get you. The Soul's Pride engaged the fighters overhead, but the human ship was outnumbered. More Varkai ships were probably on the way. Last chance, Taemin said to the 3 exiles as plasma fire lit up the crater around them. You can wait here for your former packmates to kill you, or you can come with me and fight for something new. Daeho looked at his 2 friends. In their eyes, he saw the same thing he felt. They were tired of running. Tired of being nothing. If we come with you, Daeho said, what happens then? Then we figure it out together, Taemin replied. But first we have to survive the next 10 minutes. A Varkai fighter swooped low, its guns tracking toward their position. Taemin raised his plasma pistol, knowing it was useless against a ship. But Daeho was faster. The exiled Varkai had kept his military equipment when he was cast out. His rifle was older than Taemin's pistol, but it hit harder. The shot took the fighter's engine apart in a burst of flame and metal. Boram and Junsik added their own fire, and suddenly the humans weren't fighting alone anymore. This is it, Boram said, as she reloaded her weapon. There's no going back after this. Good, Junsik replied, his voice steady. I was getting tired of going backward anyway. Above them, the Soul's Pride had gained the upper hand. Sujin's tactical skills and the crew's teamwork were proving superior to Varkai individual aggression. One by one, the enemy fighters were falling. When the last Varkai ship was destroyed, Taemin looked at the 3 exiles. They had made their choice. They had fired on their own people to protect a human. So, he said, ready to see what comes. Next? Daeho picked up a piece of shrapnel from the destroyed fighter. On it was the symbol of his old pack. He looked at it for a moment, then threw it away. Yes, he said. We're ready. The transport shuttle from the Soul's Pride landed 20 minutes later. As they climbed aboard, Taemin noticed that the 3 Varkai sat together, but they were no longer looking backward toward their old lives. They were looking forward, toward whatever came next. It was a small beginning. 3 exiles and 1 human commander. But sometimes small beginnings led to big changes, and the galaxy was about to change in ways none of them could imagine. Life aboard the Soul's Pride was not easy for the 3 Varkai exiles. The human crew kept their distance, watching the aliens with mixture of curiosity and fear. Most had never seen a Varkai up close except in battle. Now they were supposed to eat in the same mess hall and sleep in the same quarters. Daeho tried to make the best of it. He learned about human military structure, which confused him at first. Among the Varkai, rank was determined by strength and bloodline. But humans promoted people based on skill and leadership. A small human like engineer Kim Woo-jin could outrank a larger one like security chief Park Il-sung simply because Kim was better at his job. Boram struggled more with the adjustment. She was used to settling disputes with Claw and Fang. When A human crew member accidentally spilled food on her in the mess hall. She instinctively challenged him to combat. It took Taemin an hour to explain why the terrified cook couldn't accept her challenge. Junsik adapted fastest. He spent hours in the ship's library, reading everything he could about human culture and technology. His quick mind absorbed new concepts like a sponge absorbs water. "Your species is remarkable," he told Taemin one day as they stood on the ship's observation deck. "You have no natural weapons, no thick hide, no enhanced strength. Yet you conquered your homeworld and built an interstellar civilization." "We had something better than claws," Taemin replied. "We had each other. It was a peaceful moment, but it didn't last." The proximity alarm started screaming, and red lights flashed throughout the ship. "Battle stations!" Sujin's voice echoed over the comm system. "Varkai fleet coming out of hyperspace." Taemin ran to the bridge with the 3 exiles close behind. Through the main viewport, they could see 12 Varkai warships materializing from the swirling energy of hyperspace. Each ship was twice the size of the Soul's Pride, their hulls covered in bone-like armor and weapon ports. "It's a hunting pack," Daeho said quietly. "They've come for us." "Sir," reported the sensor officer, "the lead ship is transmitting on all frequencies. They're demanding we surrender the traitors." Taemin looked at his alien guests. "Any chance they'll listen to reason?" Boram bared her fangs in what might have been a smile. "About as much chance as a wounded prey animal has of talking its way out of a Varkai's jaws." The first enemy salvo lit up space around them. The Soul's Pride shook as plasma bolts struck her shields. Sujin worked frantically at her tactical station, trying to find a weakness in the enemy formation. "They're boxing us in," she reported. "Standard Varkai hunting pattern. They'll close the net until we can't maneuver, then board us." Taemin studied the tactical display. The Varkai ships were moving in perfect coordination, like wolves surrounding their prey. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "There," Junsik said suddenly, pointing at the display. "The 3rd ship in the formation. Its position is slightly off." Sujin frowned at her instruments. "I don't see anything wrong." "Trust me," Junsik said. "I grew up learning these formations. That ship has a new pack leader, someone trying hard to prove himself. He's moved 2 degrees closer than he should be." Taemin made a decision that went against everything in human military doctrine. He was about to trust the tactical advice of an alien they'd known for only weeks. "Sujin, target that ship. Full spread of torpedoes." "Sir, that will leave us exposed to the others." "Do it." The torpedoes streaked across space toward the out-of-position Varkai ship. Its captain tried to compensate, pulling back into formation. But the movement created exactly the gap Junsik had predicted. The Soul's Pride shot through the opening like an arrow through a closing fist. "Brilliant!" Sujin shouted as they cleared the enemy formation. "How did you know that would work?" Junsik looked pleased with himself. Varkai pack tactics are nearly perfect, but they rely on everyone knowing their exact position. One mistake creates a weakness. The celebration was short-lived. The enemy ships had turned to pursue, and they were faster than the human vessel. Worse, long-range sensors showed more Varkai ships jumping into the system. "Boarding pods incoming!" the weapons officer shouted. 3 Varkai assault pods attached themselves to the Soul's Pride's hull like metal parasites. Cutting beams began slicing through the armor. "Security teams to decks 4, 6, and 9, Taemin ordered. Then he turned to his 3 alien allies. "This is it. They're coming for you." Daeho checked his rifle. "Then we'll meet them properly." The first breach came on deck 6. 12 Varkai warriors poured through the opening, their plasma weapons cutting down 2 human security guards before they could react. The corridor filled with the sound of roaring and plasma fire. Day-Ho arrived at the breach point, just as the enemy warriors spread out to secure the area. For a moment, the 2 groups of Varkai faced each other in shock, brothers who had become enemies. Day-Ho! Growled the enemy pack leader. You should have died in exile. Maybe, Day-Ho replied, but I chose to live instead. The battle that followed was unlike anything the human crew had ever seen. Varkai fighting Varkai was a display of raw power and speed that left the humans stunned. But there was a difference. The enemy warriors fought for dominance, each trying to prove their individual strength. Day-Ho fought alongside the humans, protecting the wounded and coordinating with the security team. On Deck 4, Boram showed the human Marines a new way to fight. Instead of trying to match Varkai's strength with strength, she taught them to use the ship's corridors and bulkheads as weapons. A Varkai warrior charging down a hallway was unstoppable, but that same warrior could be trapped and neutralized if you knew how. Junsik proved that intelligence was just as valuable as claws. He hacked into the ship's internal sensors and used them to track enemy movements, feeding information to the human defenders. For the first time, humans could predict where Varkai would attack next. The tide of battle turned when Dr. Park Hye-Jin, the ship's medical officer, did something unprecedented. She moved through the fighting to treat wounded Varkai, not just the exiles but enemy warriors as well. When a young Varkai soldier lay bleeding in the corridor, she knelt beside him and began treating his wounds. "Why?" the wounded warrior gasped. "I am your enemy." "You're hurt," Dr. Park replied simply, continuing to work. "That's all that matters right now." The scene stopped the fighting around them. Warriors on both sides stared in amazement as the small human woman risked her life to save an enemy who would have killed her moments before. "This is what we mean," Day-Ho said to the enemy pack leader. "This is the strength we found among the humans." The fighting ended not with victory or defeat, but with confusion. Half the Varkai boarding party had surrendered, unwilling to attack the humans who were treating their wounded. The others retreated to their ships, uncertain about what they had witnessed. In the aftermath, as the Varkai fleet withdrew to regroup, Taemin found himself in the medical bay. Dr. Park was treating wounded crew members, human and Varkai alike, with the same care and attention. "Doctor," he said quietly, "what you did out there, that could have gotten you killed." She looked up from her patient, a young Varkai warrior who was now unconscious from pain medication. "Commander, I took an oath to do no harm and to preserve life. I didn't see any exceptions for alien species in that oath." Taemin smiled. "And that's why we'll win this war." Boram, her fur singed from plasma fire, approached them. "Commander Taemin, I need to tell you something. What happened today, it will spread. Other Varkai will hear about it. Some will be angry, but others will be curious," Junsik finished. "They'll want to know what kind of humans could inspire Varkai to fight beside them instead of against them." Day-Ho joined them, limping slightly from a wound. "We've crossed a line today. There's no going back to our old packs now." "Good," Taemin said, "because now you're part of a new pack. One that chooses its members based on character, not blood." Outside the medical bay windows, space was calm again. But everyone knew this was just the beginning. Word of the battle would spread to both fleets. Soon they would have to face the consequences of what they had started. But for now, in the quiet of the medical bay, 3 species worked together to heal the wounded and prepare for whatever came next. It was a small miracle in a vast galaxy, but sometimes small miracles grew into something larger, something that could change everything. News of the battle aboard the Soul's Pride spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On Earth, Admiral Eugene Wu slammed his fist on the conference table so hard that his coffee mug jumped. "This is madness," he shouted at the assembled officers. "We're at war with these creatures, and now Taimin wants to recruit them? They'll cut our throats the moment we turn our backs." General Kim Sang-ho, the oldest officer in the room, spoke more quietly. "Jin Wu, I've read the reports. These Varkai fought alongside our people. They saved human lives. 3 of them!" Admiral Yu snapped. 3 out of billions! And for this we're supposed to trust their entire species? The argument had been going on for hours. Half the military leadership wanted Taimin court-martialed for treason. The other half wanted to study what had happened aboard his ship. Meanwhile, in Varkai space, the reaction was even more violent. High Alpha Korthvan had called a grand assembly of all pack leaders. The Great Hall was packed with hundreds of the most powerful Varkai in the galaxy, their anger making the air thick with tension. The fangless ones have not only survived their exile, Korthvan announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. They have allied themselves with our enemies. They have turned their claws against their own blood. A roar of fury went up from the assembled pack leaders. Some called for immediate execution of any Varkai who showed mercy to humans. Others demanded a holy war to cleanse the galaxy of the human plague. But on the Soul's Pride, Taimin was dealing with a different kind of problem. His ship had become a magnet for outcasts from both species, human deserters who were tired of endless war, Varkai exiles who had nowhere else to go, refugees from colonies caught in the fighting. The ship's mess. Hall had become a strange sight. Humans and Varkai sat at the same tables, sharing meals and stories. Engineer Kim Woo-jin had struck up an unlikely friendship with a Varkai mechanic named Goltar, who had been cast out for refusing to sabotage a human hospital. "Your people are very clever," Goltar told Kim as they worked together to repair a damaged power coupling. "But you build everything so small and delicate," Kim laughed. "That's because we're small and delicate ourselves. We have to be smart about how we use our resources. Among my people, if something breaks, we hit it harder until it works again," Goltar admitted. "Sometimes that works," Kim agreed. "But sometimes you need a gentler touch." These small moments of understanding were happening all over the ship, but Taimin knew they couldn't last. Both governments wanted him to bring his ship home. Both sides were preparing for bigger battles. The crisis came when a human colony ship, the New Busan, sent out a distress call. They had been attacked by Varkai raiders and were drifting helpless in space with hundreds of wounded civilians aboard. "Sir, we're the closest ship," Sujin reported. "But if we respond, we'll be crossing into Varkai territory. It could be a trap." Taimin looked at his mixed crew. In the weeks since the battle, they had learned to work together. Humans taught Varkai about technology and cooperation. Varkai taught humans about honor and courage, but this would be their first real test. "Daeho, what's your opinion?" Taimin asked. The exiled Varkai considered carefully. "If it's a trap, they'll be expecting a human ship with human tactics. They won't expect us." "And if it's not a trap?" Bo Ram asked. "If those civilians are really dying, then we save them," Junsik said firmly. "That's what this new pact does, isn't it? We protect those who can't protect themselves." The Soul's Pride arrived at the colony ship to find a scene of devastation. The New Busan was a massive civilian vessel designed to carry families to new worlds. Now its hull was torn open in dozens of places, and emergency lights flickered, weakly in the darkness. But the distress call had been real. No trap waited for them, just hundreds of injured people floating in the void. The rescue operation brought out the best in everyone. Human medical teams worked alongside Varkai warriors to cut through twisted metal and reach trapped survivors. Dr. Park Hyejin coordinated with Varkai medics who had joined Taimin's crew, sharing techniques and equipment. One moment stood out to everyone who witnessed it. A section of the colony ship's hull collapsed, trapping a group of human children in the wreckage. The opening was too small for humans in environmental suits to reach them, but a Varkai could fit. Boram volunteered, without hesitation. She squeezed through the twisted metal, ignoring the sharp edges that tore at her fur, and carried the children out one by one. The last child was unconscious and badly hurt. Boram cradled the small human girl against her chest as she made her way back to safety. When they reached the Soul's Pride's medical bay, the child's mother tried to thank Boram, but the Varkai female just shook her head. "Your young one is safe," Boram said gently. "That is thanks enough." The rescue made news across the galaxy. Videos of humans and Varkai working together to save lives were broadcast on both sides. For the first time, people began to see that cooperation was possible, but the hardliners on both sides saw something different. They saw a threat to the natural order. Admiral Yu issued a direct order. The Soul's Pride was to return to Earth immediately. Any Varkai aboard were to be turned over to military intelligence for questioning. At the same time, High Alpha Korthvon declared the 3 exiles and their human allies to be blood enemies of all Varkai. Any pack that killed them would receive great honor and rich rewards. "So what do we do now?" Sujin asked as she read the orders from Earth Command. Taimin looked around at his crew. Humans and Varkai stood together on the bridge, united by shared purpose. They had saved lives together, fought together, bled together. The bonds between them were stronger than any military order or racial hatred. "We do what we've always done," he said finally. "We protect those who can't protect themselves." "Even if it means defying both our governments?" asked Dr. Park. "Especially then," Daeho said firmly. "Sometimes the right choice is not the easy choice." Junsik had been studying his datapad during the conversation. Now he looked up with excitement in his eyes. "Commander, I've been monitoring communications from across the galaxy. We're not alone anymore. There are other ships, other crews following our example, humans working with Varkai exiles, mixed crews saving lives instead of taking them. How many?" Boram asked. "Maybe 50 ships so far," Junsik replied. "Small ones mostly, but growing." Taimin felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Hope. "Then we're not just a crew anymore. We're a movement." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent transmission from an unknown source. The face that appeared on the main screen was neither human nor Varkai. It was something else entirely: gray skin, large black eyes, and a voice that sounded like whispers in an empty room. "Greetings, brave ones," the alien said. "We have been watching your efforts with great interest. We are the Hegemony, and we have a proposition for you." The transmission cut off, leaving the crew staring at a blank screen. "Who were they?" Sujin asked. "Trouble," Daeho growled. "In my experience, when unknown aliens show up offering deals, it's never good news." Taemin had to agree. But he also knew that they had crossed too many bridges to turn back now. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Outside the ship's windows, space looked peaceful, but everyone on the bridge could feel the storm gathering. Two galaxies were about to collide, and they were standing right in the middle. The only question now was whether they would survive what came next. The neutral station orbiting the dead star was older than human civilization. Its builders had been gone for thousands of years, leaving behind only this massive structure where different species could meet safely. Today, it would host the most important gathering in galactic history. Taemin stood at the observation window of his shuttle as they approached the station. Behind him sat representatives from 3 species that had never worked together before. General Choi Min-ho represented the human forces that still believed in peace. Pack leader Velthar spoke for the few Varkai who questioned the endless war. And there were the 3 exiles who had started it all, Daeho, Bo-Ram, and Jun-Sik. "This is either the bravest thing we've ever done," Sujin said from the pilot's seat, "or the stupidest." "Maybe both," Taemin replied. The station's docking bay was enormous, big enough to hold ships from a dozen different species. Today it held only 3, a human diplomatic vessel, a Varkai war cruiser, and the Soul's Pride. The sight of them side by side was surreal. The meeting hall was in the station's center, a vast circular room with a dome that showed the stars above. 3 tables had been arranged in a triangle, with space in the middle for speakers. General Choi was already there when Taemin's group arrived. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was still strong. "Commander, Taemin, I have to admit, when I first heard about your experiments, I thought you had lost your mind." "And now?" Taemin asked. "Now I think you might be the sanest person in the galaxy." Pack leader Velthar arrived with ceremony befitting Varkai tradition. She was smaller than most Varkai leaders, but her silver fur marked her as one of the ancient bloodlines. Behind her came 6 warriors, their weapons peace-bonded but still visible. "So," Velthar said, as she took her place at the Varkai table, "these are the fangless ones who have caused such trouble." Daeho stepped forward and bowed in the old style. "We are honored, Pack Leader. We offer no apology for our actions." "Good," Velthar replied, surprising everyone. "Apologies are for cubs who break things by accident. You broke things on purpose." The opening statements were formal and careful. General Choi spoke of humanity's desire for peace, but admitted that the war faction was growing stronger every day. Velthar acknowledged that most Varkai still saw humans as weak prey, but noted that recent events had made some packs question this view. Then Taemin asked for permission to present evidence. The holographic display in the center of the room, lit up with images from the past months. Humans and Varkai working together to repair damaged ships. Mixed crews rescuing civilians from both species. Medical stations where Dr. Park Hyejin's methods were being copied by Varkai healers. "This is what we've accomplished with just a few dozen ships," Taemin said. "Imagine what we could do with our entire fleets working together." "Pretty pictures," growled one of Velthar's warriors, "but they prove nothing. A few outcasts and misfits do not represent our species." That's when Daeho spoke up. His voice carried across the hall with surprising authority. "You're right," he said. "I am an outcast. I was cast out for refusing to kill defenseless prisoners. Bo-Ram was exiled for questioning the wisdom of endless war. Jun-Sik was shunned for believing that intelligence matters more than bloodline. He, walked to the center of the room, standing directly under the dome of stars. But I have learned something in exile. Honor is not about following orders blindly. Honor is about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Strength is not about dominating the weak. Strength is about lifting them up. Boram joined him in the center. I spent my whole life believing that might makes right, that the strongest should rule and the weak should serve. But I have seen humans risk their lives for strangers. I have seen them choose death before dishonor. If that is weakness, then I choose to be weak. Junsik stepped forward last. My people believe that bloodline determines worth, that an alpha's cub will always be superior to a worker's child. But I have worked alongside humans who rose from nothing to become leaders through their own merit. I have seen that true nobility comes from what you do, not from what you were born to be. The hall was silent when they finished. Even the hardline Varkai warriors seemed moved by their words. That's when the new threat revealed itself. The dome above them flickered, and suddenly they were looking at a different view of space. Dozens of ships hung in the void beyond the station. Ships unlike anything human or Varkai had ever built. They were organic-looking things, like living creatures made of metal and bone. A voice filled the hall, the same whispered tone they had heard before. Greetings, children of the lesser species. We are the hegemony. For 1,000 years, we have watched your civilizations grow and fight and destroy each other. Now the time has come for you to serve a higher purpose. The image shifted to show planets under attack. Cities burning, populations being herded into massive ships like cattle. We are collectors, the voice continued. We gather the useful from each species we encounter. Your warriors will fight in our armies. Your workers will build our machines. Your children will be raised as our servants. General Choi was on his feet. This is an act of war! The alien laughter was like breaking glass. War implies that you have a choice. You do not. We have studied both your species extensively. Humans are individually weak, but work well in groups. Varkai are strong, fighters but lack coordination. Neither of you can stand against us alone. But together? Velthar asked quietly. Together, you might be interesting prey instead of simply livestock. The transmission ended, leaving the three groups staring at each other across the suddenly insignificant divide of their old hatreds. How long do we have? Taemin asked. Jun-sik was already working at a portable computer, analyzing the sensor data from the alien ships. Based on their formation and the power signatures, they're not planning an immediate attack. This was reconnaissance. They're giving us time to think about it, General Choi realized. Time to understand how hopeless our situation is. Or, time to do something unexpected, Velthar said slowly. For the next 3 hours, they planned. It was awkward at first. Humans and Varkai had very different approaches to warfare. But slowly, a strategy emerged. The hegemony expected them to fight separately, using their traditional tactics. Human cunning versus alien technology. Varkai strength versus superior numbers. Both would fail. But what if they combined human strategy with Varkai warrior skills? What if they used joint crews that could think like humans and fight like Varkai? It's impossible, one of the human admirals said when they presented the plan via subspace communication. We can't integrate our fleets in the time we have. Then we don't integrate the fleets, Taemin replied. We create new ones. The proposal was radical. Take volunteers from both species and form mixed crews. Use human ships modified with Varkai weapons technology. Train Varkai warriors in human team tactics. It would mean trusting their enemies with their most advanced technology. It would mean putting human lives in alien hands and alien lives in human hands. The risk is enormous, General Choi admitted. The risk of doing nothing is greater, Velthar replied. As the meeting broke up, delegates from both sides began making urgent calls to their governments. Some would support the alliance. Others would call it treason. But in the end, it didn't matter what the politicians decided. The hegemony had given them a gift without realizing it, a common enemy that made their old conflicts seem petty and small. Daeho found Taemin standing alone at the observation window, watching the alien ships in the distance. "Do you think we can do it?" the Varkai asked. "Can we really become one people in time?" Taemin thought about everything they had been through together, the battles, the rescues, the small moments of understanding that had grown into friendship. "We're already doing it," he said. "One person at a time." Outside the window, the hegemony fleet waited with the patience of predators. They had hunted countless species across the galaxy. They had never failed to break their prey, but they had never faced prey that refused to break. Prey that chose to stand together instead of falling apart. The real war was about to begin. The planet Thanatos hung in space like a black pearl, its surface covered with the twisted spires of hegemony architecture. Around it orbited a shield generator so powerful that it could turn any attacking fleet into cosmic dust. For 3 months, the combined Human-Varkai alliance had been planning their assault on this fortress world. Admiral Taemin, his promotion had come with the new fleet, stood on the bridge of the Soul's Unity, the first ship designed jointly by human and Varkai engineers. Around him, his bridge crew was a mix of both species, working as smoothly as if they had served together for years. "Final approach in 30 minutes, reported Lieutenant Nam Soo-jin from her tactical station. Behind her, Varkai Weapons Officer Kolmesh monitored the alien gun systems that had been integrated into their human ship. "Any word from the infiltration teams?" Taemin asked. Jun-Sik, now wearing the insignia of a lieutenant commander, looked up from his intelligence station. "Teams Alpha and Beta are in position. Team Gamma is still moving to their target." The plan was complex because it had to be. The hegemony's shields made direct assault impossible, but intelligence gathered by mixed crews had revealed a weakness. The shield generators needed constant maintenance by organic technicians. If those technicians could be replaced— "Sir," Soo-jin said quietly, "long-range sensors are picking up more hegemony ships jumping into the system. They know we're coming." Through the main view screen, Taemin could see the massive Alliance fleet spread out across space. Human ships flew alongside Varkai vessels, their crews trained together, over months of desperate preparation. It was the largest military cooperation in galactic history, born from necessity and forged in trust. Down on the planet's surface, Dr. Park Hya-jin crouched behind a twisted metal formation with her team. The hegemony had turned Thanatos into a factory world, using captured populations as slave labor. What they had found in the underground complexes had made even hardened soldiers sick. "Commander, you need to see this," whispered engineer Kim Woo-jin over the comm. The hidden laboratory was filled with tanks containing floating figures, humans and Varkai suspended in green fluid. But these weren't prisoners, they were experiments. The hegemony had been trying to combine the best traits of both species into controllable hybrid soldiers. "This is what they do," Boram growled, her fur standing on end with rage. "They don't just conquer worlds, they remake them." Dr. Park moved from tank to tank, checking the life signs of the floating captives. Most were beyond help, their minds broken by the alien procedures, but some might still be saved. "We can't leave them here," she said firmly. "The mission comes first," argued Sergeant Lee Do-hyun, the team's military leader. "The mission is to save people," Dr. Park replied. "These are people." It was Bo-ram who found the solution. The Varkai female studied the control systems with the same intensity she had once used to track prey. "I can overload the power grid to these tanks," she said. "It will free the prisoners and create a distraction, but whoever does it won't make it out." "Then I'll do it," Dr. Park said immediately. "No," Bo-ram said gently. "You're needed to help the survivors. This is my choice." Above them, the space battle had begun. The hegemony fleet was massive, hundreds of the organic-looking ships that moved like living things. But the Alliance fleet fought with a coordination that surprised their enemies. Daeho commanded a mixed squadron of fighters, human and Varkai pilots, flying together in formations that used the best tactics of both species. When hegemony interceptors tried to surround his human wingman, Daeho's Varkai instincts helped him predict their attack pattern. When alien fighters tried to overwhelm his Varkai partner through sheer numbers, the human pilot's team tactics helped them escape the trap. "This is impossible," radioed Captain Oh Sung-min from his fighter. "They're everywhere." "Stay with your wingman," Daeho replied calmly. "Trust your training. Trust each other." The breakthrough came when Jun 6 intelligence proved accurate. The shield generators did have a weakness. They needed living operators to function, and the hegemony had never imagined that their enemies might willingly sacrifice themselves to save others. Bo-ram's explosion in the underground facility took out 3 power nodes and freed dozens of prisoners. The shield flickered for just 30 seconds. But 30 seconds was enough. The combined fleet poured through the gap like water through a broken dam. Human ships provided covering fire while Varkai vessels used their superior armor to punch deep into the enemy formation. On every ship, mixed crews worked together with the kind of seamless cooperation that takes years to develop. Cooperation they had built in months through shared purpose. The Soul's unity led the assault on the planet's surface. In the hangar bay, Tae-min suited up alongside his ground team. Daeho and what remained of the infiltration teams would meet them at the primary command center. The hegemony's ground forces were unlike anything they had faced before. Creatures that were part machine, part organic, moved through the twisted city with deadly purpose. But they fought as individuals, each trying to prove its superiority over the others. "Classic mistake," Daeho observed as they took cover from enemy fire. "They think like predators, not like pack hunters." The final assault on the command center brought together everything they had learned: human creativity and Varkai strength, pack loyalty and individual initiative. The willingness to sacrifice for others combined with the determination to survive. In the center of the complex, they found the hegemony's leader, a creature that was more machine than organic, connected to the planet's systems by thousands of cables. It spoke without moving, its voice filling their minds directly. "You cannot win," it said. "We have conquered 1,000 worlds. We are inevitable." "Maybe," Tae-min replied, raising his weapon, "but we're not going to make it easy for you." The battle with the hegemony leader was brief but vicious. Its cybernetic enhancements made it incredibly strong and fast. But it fought alone, while Taemin's team fought together. When it fell, the planetary defense systems began shutting down. Across Thanatos, slave populations looked up to see Alliance ships landing to liberate them. But victory came with a price. The casualty reports showed the cost of their success. Hundreds of ships lost, thousands of crew members dead or wounded. Among the dead was Boram, who had given her life to save strangers she had never met. At her memorial service, held in the hangar bay of the Soul's Unity, representatives from both species stood together. Deho spoke for his fallen pack sister. Boram believed that strength was about protecting the weak, he said. She proved that belief with her life. She died as she lived, fighting for those who could not fight for themselves. Dr. Park Hee-jin had survived the mission and was already working to help the freed prisoners recover from their ordeal. Many would never fully heal from what the hegemony had done to them, but they were alive and free, and that was what mattered. What happens now? Jun-sik asked as they stood together after the service. Taemin looked out at the stars beyond the hangar's force field. Now we do what we've always done. We protect those who can't protect themselves. We explore the galaxy together. We prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The war with the hegemony would continue for years, but the victory at Thanatos had proven something important. Two species that had been enemies could become allies. More than allies. They could become family. In the months that followed, the alliance grew stronger. The first integrated military academy opened on New Seoul, with Daeho and Jun-sik among its instructors. Dr. Park established medical protocols that worked for both species. Engineers like Kim Woo-jin designed ships that combined the best of human and Varkai technology. Not everyone accepted the changes. There were still humans who hated all aliens, and Varkai who believed in racial superiority. But they were outnumbered by those who had seen what cooperation could accomplish. The final scene took place 5 years later, at the graduation ceremony for the Academy's first class. Young humans and Varkai stood together as they received their commissions as officers in the Alliance fleet. Taemin, now a fleet admiral, watched from the reviewing stand alongside his old friends. Daeho wore the insignia of a colonel, his scars worn proudly as symbols of honor rather than shame. Jun-sik had become one of the galaxy's leading experts on interspecies cooperation. "Do you think it will last?" Daeho asked as they watched the new officers take their oaths. "Nothing lasts forever," Taemin replied. "But some things are worth fighting for, even if they don't last." The ceremony ended with the new officers boarding ships bound for the frontier, where new worlds waited to be explored and new challenges to be faced. They went as partners, not conquerors, as protectors, not predators. The predator cubs had abandoned their bloodline and marched behind the human into war. But in the end, they had all become something new, something better than either species could have been alone. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, full of wonders and terrors yet to be discovered. But whatever came next, they would face it together. And that made all the difference.